Oh boy, it is time to take a look at the Lancers. Now, at the moment, at least in my case, the Lancers are, as you can see, a little bit bugged. And some of the features of the ship are not working exactly as they should. So today I'll be focusing more on the tank, and I'll cover the tank on all of the Lancers one by one. But when they fix the ship, which is, does happen it will happen probably in like the next day or two, I'll be focusing on the combat part on the ships. And I think that's going to be fun because I have a lot of ideas that I would love to share with you, and I think it will be pretty hilarious to see what these ships can do. Now let's take a look at the stats first. Raw bonus plus 50% shield extender bonus, plus 50% armor plate hit point bonus, plus 120 seconds capital emergency hull energizer activation time. And also you have a jump drive available. It's a thing that's been ongoing for most of the new ships. They have a bonus on the plates and on the extenders, and the damage control module is also kind of relevant nowadays. Advanced capital laser will give you some laser damage, and you also do have some missile bonuses. This thing can use missiles and lasers, and of course it is a revelation hull, so plus 4% armor resistance and plus 4% armor volume overall. It is a chunky boat. And of course, when it comes to the tank, I would say that this is still a armor tank. Obviously, don't use shield extenders on this thing. I believe the ship bonuses, the roll bonus, will be changed down the road because kind of weird to have a shield extender bonus on a armor tank ship with a obvious armor resist bonus. But the rest of the stats are actually decent, and they should be fairly tankier than the ordinary Dreadnought, which would be quite interesting to test out in coming out builds. And this is where things get a bit different. Now it has 4 high slots in difference from the 3 high slots that we see on the other capitals. I have some C-type pulse lasers, but again, you can fit missiles, you can fit the high angle weapons as well. And there is the DoomsDay, Divine Punishments. Now you have 4 types, and I'll cover each type for basically every ship. This one is designed for the Bane, and here you can take a look at all of the other things that it is doing. It is a nasty module for sure. Now you should get a bonus, but again, currently my ships here are a little bit bugged, so this is not the maximum damage that the Doomsday can do, but it is more than enough to basically cripple a sub capital. They can also be used to cripple capitals and super capitals, since all of these effects here do impact every ship basically. And you can use this thing to camp interceptors. Basically, if you position yourself in such a way that you can intercept the incoming interceptor, you can fire the Doomsday, and by the time they'll land right in the beam, and that will be the end of the interceptor. We'll also show you how that works. Of course, when this is, even the Doomsday is bugged, doesn't work properly. Which is, yeah, and just a quick overview here, you can take a look at the other Doomsdays. Every Doomsday basically designed for different Lancer. The EM one is the Amar one, designed for the Bane, so I'll be using this one on this ship. And here you can take a look at the medium slots. I'm using my Revelation setup on this thing because that's how I would be using this ship with this build. It can tank a super capital. It should be able to do that quite easily, and I'll have to test that, and I will once these ships start working properly, because you don't get that repair bonus since the siege mode isn't working as well. But I have about but a very similar Revelation tank build that I have. And for the implants, you can use the pulse crystal, focus crystal, and there is, of course, the thermal circulation that I would love to see in action on this thing. Extra 20% armor resistance. This is going to be disgusting on these ships. Now, I actually expected them to have some extra resistance like the Navy battleships, but apparently that's not the case. And honestly, I'm fine with that. Maybe they will get some extra resistance. We will see. I mean, it is literally they have been released like 2 hours before I started recording this, so there is going to be changes done to the ships, obviously, and I'm going to be covering all of those changes as time goes. But this is basically the first release of the Lancers, and so far, when it comes to what they can tank, it looks fairly decent. Of course, I love the weapon placements. Ironically, it's quite hilarious how bugged the ship model and the whole ship is. But you know, it happens, I guess, and I'm fairly sure the developers are already aware of it. So the fix should be fast, hopefully, because looking at a Dreadnought like this is quite hilarious, to be honest. And well, this is the moment where I realized that the ships were bugged. So yeah, I'm adjusting the modules. Good old Revelation setup that I have here. If this ship ends up surprising me in any way, shape or form, it will probably be a very good replacement for my Revelation. A worthy replacement. 13 million hit points, 90, 93, 92 and 91% resistances, which is quite lovely. And it's a lot of armor hit points by default. They have so much hit point, it's ridiculous. And this is even without the plates. I mean, with the plates it will be much higher. 65 million hit points, 98, 99, 99 and 98. Again, immortality for 15 seconds basically. And here you can take a look at the siege mode on the Lancers. The siege mode does enhance the Doomsday, and that's why I'm saying that I'll wait for the ships to be fixed before actually doing some combat with them, because I really want to show you what they can do with the Doomsday and you know, stuff like that. Also, the tank is crippled because it can't really use the armor repairs, but that should be fixed very soon. And here I'm spamming the siege mode, but it does not want to enter siege because it's bugged, which is funny. I mean, I should have expected that, and I did expect that. After all, usually all the new things are kind of bugged the first week or two, or the first day or two. I don't know, depends on. And just to show that, you know, even the Doomsday is bugged, I was very excited to actually fire the Doomsday. And now, well, I am kind of sad that it's bugged, but you know, again, it's to be expected that the Doomsday is also not working. But it does give you a warning, which is kind of funny. It does give you a warning that the Doomsday will basically prevent your ship from moving, and you will be pointed. You will not be able to warp. It doesn't have a crazy long charge time, but you know, it has a cooldown of 360 seconds. And this will be fun to see how it will work against subcapitals and how it will work against other capitals, how it will affect carriers, super carriers and other dreadnoughts alike. But at the moment, these Lancers are almost a identical copy to the EVE Online Lancers. I mean, probably the first Tech 2 comparable ships that we have in this game that are from EVE Online. Probably the first, because they are using 2 different weapon types. They look and have the same name as their EVE Online counterparts. I mean, the ship design, the hull design, everything is literally the exact same from EVE Online. And honestly, if they do that with more ships, I'm all in for that. I'd rather have EVE Online ships than some totally new unseen ships that have a weird name. These ships have weight to them, and I actually do like that quite a bit. And yeah, I tried to spam, I tried anything just to make it work, but unfortunately, you know, if something is bugged, it's bugged, and there's just a little that I can do. But you know, it's fine. I mean, literally 2 hours after this was released. So yeah, even the fact that I can get these things to be built is kind of a step in the right direction itself. Anyway, no, I mentioned that you can fit missiles on this thing, and you can. I mean, you can fly the Bane with missiles if you like. I actually do like that idea. A missile Bane, missile revelation, does help with Capacitor, since the lasers use Capacitor and the missiles don't. So technically, if you want to fly something chunky and if you want something that has a capacitor that will be lasting for a very long time, reducing capacitor usage will be important. So missiles will be working really well with this ship. Now you can also technically use 2 lasers and 1 missile launcher, although I'm not a fan of mixing weapon types, and overall I don't really like to mix weapons in general because I feel like that's a bit cursed, but you know, you can have one high angle weapon for anti-tackle, for example. You can use the barreled missiles for anti-tackle. Guess that could work in siege mode. After all, the damage will be improved and increased. So that's one thing that I guess could work. Although in my case, if I end up flying this, it will be used the same way as I fly the Revelation, because it's the way how I found out that the ship works best in my case. Probably not the best overall build, but again, super capitals, you need tank, and tank is what I'm pretty good at building. I mean, some of the most crazy tank builds are made right here in this station, so I would probably go with tank, but this is how it would look like with the barrel weapons. You know, could be a hilarious ship to bait sub-capital fleets with DoomsDay and stuff like that. I mean, at the moment, if you happen to have one and if you want to use it, be careful, because you will definitely be a big target for super capitals. Although, if you have a good build, you will not have to worry about super capitals that much, because again, these things are tanky as hell, so they will be able to tank super capitals with ease. And I will do the test with that once the siege mode is working, at least. So I just want to show you, I really want to show you how tanky these monsters can get. And I mean, I'm a pilot that loves tank, so these ships are kind of meant to be used in the more tanky way. Doesn't seem like they have any more extra DPS, so that's interesting. Now, as for the other builds, I think I'll just slap some plates. After all, 50% bonus per plate on extra hit points should be quite interesting, and I want to show you how much armor hit points you can get. Obviously not the highest hit point that you will see. There's some other bugs probably that don't really take full effect, but just, you know, to show you a little example on how much armor in this case you can get. Now, I'm fairly sure you can get like 5 million armor hit points on the Bane if you do happen to have the ship, and of course it should work on the live server. But I expect about 5 million armor hit points with the right general unit composition, which is honestly maybe 5 million, bit overkill, but close to 5 million at least. About 3.5, 4 million should be doable with plates, and you will also need to adjust the rigs a little bit. My rigs are not really meant for armor volume, more for armor resistance, but if I do change my rigs a bit for armor volume, I am fairly sure I can get about 4 million armor hit points, which would be kind of crazy. And of course that would go along with a very, very, very tough armor. About 90% resistance, which is crazy when you compare the tank between the normal Dread and the Lancer. The Lancers are just bricks and kind of follows the same path that we have seen so far with the versatile assault ships. They're basically, Lancers are the versatile assault ships for Dreadnoughts, basically. That's how I look at them, and that's interesting. They're not faction ships though. They're not faction ships. They're normal Dreadnoughts, but they're kind of very similar to the versatile assault ships when it comes to the plate bonus stuff and resistance in general. Now, the plate build. 3 adaptives, 3 plates, 1 reactive, and a damage control. This is basically what I would use. And or in this case, yeah, this is basically the normal damage control. So, has 8 million hit points without anything being active. 71, 83, 80, and 79%, which is, again, a fantastic default resistance value. So, how much tank can I get? Let's take a look at the resistance that we see on the Bane.
Undocking.
Should be fairly good and fairly decent. I mean, I'm fairly sure you can get like over 100 million hit points on this thing, which is, again, crazy, but that's what these ships are meant to be doing, basically. So, let me quickly adjust the modules. There we go. And let's turn everything on. Okay, let's just put the turrets in the place. There we go. Okay, now the ship looks normal. almost 21 million hit points, 90, 93, 92, and 91%. Very chunky, very beefy and chunky, as they say. And with the damage control being active, you do get 13 seconds of immortality, 101 million hit points, 98, 99, 98, and 98%. Well, yeah, that's a chunk. That is what I call a brick, and I love it. So you can do a passive tank on this. Now, I will show you the Energizer damage control, and the Energizer works in a similar way, but it is a single-use module. Basically, it does kind of feel like the Panic module on the Rorqual in EVE Online, although you're not completely immortal, but with a build like this and with a lot of resistances, you can have basically immortality for about 150 seconds, because you do get a 120-second bonus activation time on the Energizer. So about 3 minutes of being, nearly 3 minutes of being immortal should be more than enough to save your ship from a nasty situation. And the Energizer is a single use. Once it's used, basically you can't use it anymore. Has to be reprocessed. So yeah, use the module wisely, and this is why I personally prefer the normal damage control. But again, depending on where you are and depending on what you're doing, the Energizer might be better than the normal damage control. But at the same time, the normal damage control might be better if you are actively using it, or if there is no threat of a big capital hot-up. In my case, the Energizer would actually be the smarter idea, the smarter choice for my Dreadnoughts, because there's always super capitals around my head, and Energizer will help me a lot when it comes to tanking. 5 minutes of being immortal, basically. It's crazy. I mean 5 minutes, 150 seconds would be more than enough to survive that. And 22 million hit points with the Energizer does give you a bit more passive resistance, but the active is definitely one of the main things about the Energizer is the active mode, since 150 seconds is quite a long time in this game, and more than enough to basically tank a lot of super capitals dropping on you. After all, you had all the hit points, and it's a brick basically, so it will live. It doesn't really need testing, but I'll test it regardless, because I would just want to show you how tanky they can get. Now, I've been also thinking about a build where you have a plate and a armor repair, but I personally was never a fan of builds like this. I either go full active or full passive. I never really mix both, although it could technically be interesting. Could have a use, I guess, but I don't really prefer a build like this. But that's just me. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. I'm just throwing the idea out there. You tell me if something like this is usable. I don't really think that. I mean, I don't like to use plates and armor pairs at the same in the same build. But maybe it could be something with these new ships. Again, we'll be testing that out. You can also use a battery again, since batteries are very important. If you don't have a battery, then that's probably going to be a good build for a fleet. If you are in a small fleet, batteries should definitely be fitted on the Lancers, since batteries are basically the thing that's going to keep your tank up and running for a hopefully long amount of time. After all, you can't really make a Capacitor stable capital or Dreadnought in the siege mode without batteries, because the repairers just eat a lot of Capacitor, and batteries definitely a must-have on the ships. At least one battery. If you have an active tank and if you rely on resistance, one battery would be enough. If you have a better build, well, then you will have no Capacitor problems, but the tank will have a big impact. And here you can take a look at the resistance, definitely lower, and that is to be expected, since I removed one tank module, and I also removed the plates, which reduced the overall hit points by a big margin. Now let me do another build. I mean, there is just so many builds that you can do, and the ships seem to prefer a passive tank as well. So if you do plan to use these things with a passive tank, you can do that easily. And I'll just show you a bunch of different passive tank builds that will make your loggy pallets life easier. The tankier the ship, the easier it is for the loggy to repair it. And if you go full passive, then you need a loggy to repair you. So if you do that, then a build like this will probably be the way to go. Full resistance with plates, 4 adaptives, 1 reactive, 1 damage control, or a energizer damage control. I think with a loggy at your side, the energizer would be kind of overkill, although could be usable as well. I mean, that again depends on the situation, but a more active way would be with the normal damage control, because it doesn't get destroyed upon using it. 21 million hit points, 1.7 million in armor, 91, 94, 93, 93. Pretty good, pretty decent. And also fairly tanky. Very easy to repair a very chunky ship like this. You will not be taking much damage, but the loggy will repair quite a bit. So these ships, if used with passive tanks, and I think they will be used with passive tanks, will be quite easy to repair with a proper logistic ship support. In this case, the Force Auxiliaries will be used to repair the capital ships. Very similar how the versatile assault ships are also being repaired by logistic ships, and they also have a fantastic tank and overall a very good passive recharge. We'll have to take a look at that Karura Dreadnought. Should have a very good passive recharge, and that thing should be a monster. Cannot wait to actually test them out. 20 million hit points with the normal damage control, and when the damage control is active, we have 97 million hit points. Not bad. Obviously lower than the Energizer would be, but you can use it more than once, and honestly, you will not have to use it that much since it is so tanky that it's not going to take much damage to begin with. And that's the way how these things have been meant to be used. Now, is there any other build? Well, yes. I also thought about the good old Plate Abaddon build. This is basically inspiration from the good old Abaddon build. There was a time in the game where plates have been outperforming armor repairs, and that was kind of funny. Well, it was very fun, but very broken as well. And this is basically a inspiration from the good old Plate Abaddon build. 4 plates, 3 adaptives, and a damage control. Could be an energizer, could be a normal damage control. I leave that up to player preference, or not really to player preference, but to the given situation. If you happen to have super capitalists staring down at you, and a energizer would be a good idea. If you are fighting normal capitalists and sub capitalists, then the normal damage control would definitely be more of use, because you can use it more than once. And let's take a look at the tank now. 21 million hit points, 2.2 million in armor, 89, 88, 93, 92 and 91, still pretty chunky, still beefy. And of course you can activate the plates, although the plates have been drastically nerfed, and the activation plate bonus is not what it used to be. If it used to be the same, this would be ridiculously broken right now, and the revelation and overall most dreadnoughts would be fitted this way as well.
Docking request
Although you can
accepted.
also go an active route. After all, you do get a bonus on armor repair, so you can do both passive and active on these things. Both are a valid option now, especially with the bonuses. And this is the quad plate build with a damage control, classic damage control. Does give a little bit less overall hit point, but you can use it more than once, and that is also one way to build the ship. And you can do 4 adaptives and a damage with 3 plates. I think we already seen this build before, also inspired by the Abaddon, by the plate Abaddon build, which was ridiculous, and I kinda miss it. It was so broken and so silly, and honest, I do miss it. It was a fun thing to be used. But that will be it for today. Focused on tank, and we'll focus on tank on the other ships as well. And once the bugs and once the ships are actually, once I can use the siege and everything, I will be showing you the combat, and I'll do some silly things with them. But with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. If you would like to support me, feel free to like and subscribe. And with that being said, stay safe, fly safe, as always. I'll see you next time.